You're such an asshole.
We have a Singaporean agent in the field. I need to apologize in advance to him because this one is one of the longer ones sitting on my request list. Hi, Aaron, longtime listener. I put in a video request a few years ago called The Man Who Did the Work. Anyways, I moved to Singapore from Canada 2 years ago. Smart move. I wanted to share my experience with you and your viewers about what life, work, dating, etc. As a guy out here in his 30s, had to pay for a video. Like, absolutely, if you're going to provide a PSA. So here it is. Kind of, did I miss something? That. No, you just wrote a summary here, and it's pretty short and to the point. I will break down my experience into the categories that you usually cover: work, finances, culture, and dating. Work. Having worked in both the US and Canada, the work culture in Singapore can be quite stressful depending on your company. Similar to Dubai, Singapore relies heavily on investments from foreign multinational corporations, thus creating jobs. Shipping, logistics, financial services, and tech are some of the largest industries here, hiring a lot of locals and foreigners. Depending on the company, the corporate boomer work culture runs pretty strong here, mixed with traditional Asian values. I will, I, I would assume Singapore is less corrupt than Dubai, and Dubai isn't all that corrupt. But I have a client, longtime client in Dubai, and man, it's like watching an episode of Dallas, which you're probably too young to remember. But all the all the corporate, I mean, we got corporate politics pretty bad here in the United States, but man, Dubai, that just seems like it's like white collar hell. I could be wrong. Maybe people really enjoy Dubai, but this guy, maybe particularly the industries he's in, you got to know somebody, and oh, yeah, and everyone's working 80 hours a week. So I could pick up on that. I could see that in Singapore. Singapore has a 0% capital gains tax. Foreigners pay a flat income tax of 15%, excluding other income sources. Property and renting here can be quite expensive. Again, the city state is so small. 80% of locals live in government subsidized housing, which are clean, safe, and modern. Cost of living is pretty high, but there is always ways to keep it low. In particular, it is cheaper and more efficient for people to eat out. Very interesting. I would also imagine that is it should be that way, like, to eat out. Look, you handful of people make a lot of food for everybody, okay? In other words, cooking should be not only a chore you outsource, it should be higher quality and cheaper. And it looks like Singapore managed to pull that off. But then again, they probably all their restaurants have been taken over by private equity. Culture. Singapore is a westernized, very safe, low crime, and well managed country. Public transit works very well. No crackheads on the subway. I'd imagine not. I remember they're the ones like, if you chew gum, you're going to go to jail. If you literally get caned, I'm like, sounds good. And aren't they the ones like you come into the country where it's drugs? I think it's the death penalty, isn't it? Am I confusing that with the Philippines? Given that Singapore is a major financial center for all of Southeast Asia, shit here simply works. Dating, yes, the women. On average, the women here are thin, well put together, and educated. There's a growing number of fat women, but they are rare, thanks to Asian societal shame, genetics, and beauty standards that keep them thin. The women here are also quite westernized, but still hold traditional Asian values like family stability, etc. Sounds great. Singaporean women can be very entitled and demanding. The Taiwanese princess. As many of them are used to a certain standard of life, especially if they came from a rich family. When choosing a guy, they want to marry a guy who could give them a certain lifestyle. It's common to see women walk around in fancy clothes and designer handbags, even though they're still living at home with their parents. They're still leagues above the average North American woman. Okay, I'll go along with that because they are professional. I'm going to imagine most of them work in finance or some kind of STEM related. They're not a bunch of socialist activists. They're thinner already. That puts them above pretty much most North American women. I'll go with you on that. I guess there's no such thing as perfect. I'd be like, look, lady, I can't. I just can't. No, sorry. I cannot afford what we're not buying bags. No, we're not doing that. I mean, I guess In Singapore, because I remember looking at it, I was going to visit it one time. It's just an island at the tip of Malaysia. And I got to imagine like Chicago or New York, you're kind of stuck on that island unless you make a dedicated trip to Malaysia or fly somewhere else. And that's one of the things where I kind of ruled against living in Singapore is because there's no mountains. You're stuck on this island. You got to fly somewhere to get to there, or you got to take the bridge across to Malaysia. I like my wide open Western spaces in the United States too much. So I can imagine what else would women do there, right? I guess it's a big major central. Like, what do New York women do? They just get mimosas and go on dates and go to museums, I guess. Right? I guess what else would you do but shop? A lot of guys here will lean into the beta buck side of hypergamy, wearing fancy clothes and driving luxury cars. That being said, even though I'm quite frugal, I still manage to attract quite a few Singaporean women, mostly because I'm funny, relatively good looking, and a well-spoken Asian guy in his 30s. So do they prefer the Asian guys over there? Like, am I going to be eschewed? Or are you like, oh, we don't like the white guys? I'm also lucky that I've managed to meet a lot of women through friends I've made during my 2 years here. A bit of a lengthy story. No, sir, that was very short and sweet. Thank you very much. If there's anything you want more details on, let me know. No, that's about it. I mean, it sounds like you're enjoying it. Based on your name, I'm going to presume that you had family or something that allowed you to live there legally. I still want to check it out. I just want to check it out. But I'm afraid I'd probably get a little claustrophobic and okay, I need to see a wide open space or something that isn't the water, that is in the ocean. Well, good luck. I'm glad you're doing better. Hey, that's better than Canada. And literally anything is better than Canada right now. No super chats, no super chats. There you go. All right, we'll see you guys later. Toodles.